was a movie that wasn't very good that did that. It's called Pleasureville or something like that.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, it was a bad movie. I just remember. Can we?
No,
edit this out?
It wasn't called Pleasureville. Oh my god!
What was it called?
I don't know. I do.
Did you start with Hallelujah?
Yeah.
It's where like these when they would be intimate, they would turn color.
What are you talking about?
We're just gonna turn Kevin's mic off.
No.
Why were you watching that?
No, it was an old movie. I just remember, not really old, but it was a teenager movie for me. Okay, we
really pulled the curtain behind. What are you talking? I don't think that's true. There's a movie out there. I do remember. It wasn't called Pleasureville though.
Oh my goodness, I'm so embarrassed. I'm Googling it right now.
It was. It's not Smallville.
No, it was black and white, and it goes color.
Yeah, and it had. I do know it was late '90s, early 2000s,
Yes,
I believe.
Yes.
But it wasn't called Pleasureville. I think the word "ville" is in there though.
It's something similar. We got to find it out.
Well, as you described it, that would make sense.
Yes, it does.
But it wasn't.
I wanna Google
and it doesn't.
that, though.
Okay, you
Either,
just
I'm
hold on. I'm trying to help you save face
oh my
here.
goodness, people are turning us off.
No,
right
listen,
now.
listen.
What?
Oh,
It
no,
doesn't.
they're
It
tuning
didn't
in.
change color when they turned intimate, though. It was like It was like another part of the story. Like when reality clicked in. If you okay, then you're thinking of something else, then, bro. I'm trying to help you.
You are. I can't remember.
Okay.
But what people are thinking of the show right now. They know what it is.
They're probably posting it.
Oh
my goodness.
Pleasantville.
Pleasantville.
Come on, am I close or what?
Hey everyone, welcome to the Life and Gear podcast, where truth leads to joy and adventure. I'm your host, Justin, and I am here with my friend, Kevin Gear.
Hey, great to be back in the podcast.
What's
We're
up?
in the podcast.
We are in the podcast.
The podcast world.
The podcast world is amazing. It feels so cool to say like you're a part of a podcast.
Yeah, I think it's like a status symbol.
But
I don't know what.
it's not
status
really. But it
symbol.
just feels cool. It's like, yeah, I'm a part of a podcast.
Well, we're a podcast of 3 listeners, and so that's pretty powerful.
There's more. But speaking of listeners, be sure to subscribe to the Life and Gear
There it
podcast.
is. We're going to go to 4.
Boom. Oh yes, you can share it and leave reviews. I've been doing some research.
Okay, talk to me.
When you do these things, especially when you leave reviews and you share it, I didn't know leaving reviews was such a big deal. But for podcasts, leaving reviews actually boosts the algorithm to get your podcast in front of others.
So we need people to leave reviews.
So leaving reviews is the best way you can support the Life and Gear podcast.
Question.
Yes, Dwight.
Is it wrong if I write my own review?
If you do it under a false name,
I have the perfect name.
I think it's wrong.
Oh. I have a guy named Jeff Gator. Jeff Gator is a secret individual in our
He's
church.
secret agent man.
Yeah, that comes and visits our church once in a while to test our systems.
When I heard about that, we don't have time to explain all that, but it was a brilliant idea, by the way. Kevin, for those that don't know, Kevin literally created a fake name, and he wanted to see what if our system was working at the church, our follow-up system. And so he created a guy named Jeff Gator.
Well, last year I created 7 different identities and gave each board member an identity, and then they came and each had a mission. And then they reported the next month if they accomplished. Like one of them was they had to get on the youth team without doing a background check.
Oh,
and then another one had to choose. They wanted to get baptized.
Yeah,
but they wouldn't return any of the phone calls. And I was measuring how quick did we go after following up that person.
We did good if I remember right.
Oh, A+.
Like,
our team was. I was so impressed.
So were you not on your meds then if you had 7 different personalities?
I do have a little schizophrenic, but if you go back to our archive, we do have a podcast that talks about mental health.
Yes.
Sounds like you have 7 review opportunities.
I like this.
So anyway, all that said, please leave reviews on the podcast.
We hijacked the whole thing there.
So that just helps us get the word out, and it's a great way for other people to go on this adventure with us, where they get to learn how to live life with joy and adventure. So, but today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Oz effect.
Okay, I like that title.
The Oz of course you do. You came up with the title.
I like the title. So you know that scene where this is a sort of a different kind of episode that's a lot less teaching and and just more getting to know just sort of what we do. But there's the scene in The Wizard of Oz. It's my favorite scene where they walk in and they see Oz, and little Toto walks over. Little Toto walks. Is it Tio or Tio? To do? No, it's Toto. And he walks over, and have you ever seen the movie?
Yeah.
And he pulls the curtain, and there's this
string.
guy. And there's this guy running the big Oz effect, and everything shifts and changes. And you're like, wait, that's not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And it's like, I love that Oz effect right there, where something seems so big and wow, and then you see the real life, and it brings things in perspective.
Sure.
And I thought, there's a lot of people wonder, what's it like to be a pastor?
Yeah.
And what's the behind the scenes? Because most people only know me from stage.
Yeah.
And that's where all of their conclusions come.
Oz.
Yeah. So I thought today let's pull the curtain back. Let's just talk about the role that I do on a day-to-day basis, and the challenges and the strengths, and I'll just sort of be unfiltered and tell it what it's like.
That'd be good. And you saw Wizard of Oz in theaters when it was released, right?
No, but I do remember being a kid and it was already on TV.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't want to watch it because it was black and white.
Oh, yeah. But then it changes to color.
Then it changed, which is one of the greatest
boom
moments.
They still use that technique today.
Yeah, there was a movie that wasn't very good that did that. It's called Pleasureville or something like that.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, it was a bad movie. I just remember. Can we
No,
edit
it was
this out?
It wasn't called Pleasureville. Oh my god.
What was it called?
I don't know. I do.
Did you start with Hallelujah?
Yeah.
It's where when they would be intimate, they would turn color.
What are you talking about?
We're just gonna turn Kevin's mic off.
No.
Why are we watching that?
No, it was an old movie. I just remember, not really old, but it was a teenager movie for me. Okay, I got it.
We really pulled the curtain behind it. What are you talking? I don't think that's true. There's a movie out there. I do remember. It wasn't called Pleasureville, though.
Oh my goodness, I'm so embarrassed. I'm Googling it right now.
It was. It's not Smallville.
No, it was black and white, and it goes color.
Yeah, and it had. I do know it was late '90s, early 2000s, I believe.
Yes.
But it wasn't called Pleasureville. I think the word "ville" is in there though.
It's something similar. We got to find it out.
Well, as you described it, that would make sense.
Yes, it does.
But it wasn't.
I wanna Google
and it doesn't.
that,
Okay,
just
hold on. I'm trying to help you save face here.
Oh my goodness, people are turning us off.
No,
right now.
listen.
What?
It doesn't. It didn't change color when they turned intimate though. It was like It was like another part of the story. Like when reality clicked in. If you then you're thinking of something else, then, bro. I'm trying to help you.
You are. I can't remember.
Okay,
but what people are thinking of the show right now. They know what it is.
They're probably posting it.
Oh
my goodness.
Pleasantville.
Pleasantville.
Come on, am I close or what?
There's a major difference in a few of those letters, though.
Just a few letters off will make such a difference.
Pleasureville.
Oh
my goodness.
What's the synopsis of the movie, though, with the color change?
It's based on it's a comedy.
Yeah, it's a comedy.
Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon.
Yes.
And they are 90s teenagers that find themselves trapped in the world of a 1950s TV show.
Yeah.
Pleasantville.
Okay,
There's more to it than that, but we're gonna move on.
All right. So we talked about peanut butter in our last episode.
This is the worst beginning.
Oh
of
my
any podcast
goodness,
ever.
this is amazing,
and we're going with it.
Let's go for it. So we, excuse me. So we talked about peanut butter. I got on YouTube.
Yeah.
We had so many comments about peanut butter on YouTube.
Oh, it's like, I mean, we can talk about life-changing things.
I mean,
but you talk about peanut butter.
We opened up a can of peanut butter.
Oh my goodness, that was pretty good right there.
We didn't even plan that.
No.
But I loved, let's see here. Where was I? I wrote it down here. Cheryl Lane Burgess, 4707. She wrote, "This is the passion that we were seeing on YouTube comments. I will eat Jif until the day oh no, hold on. I will eat Jif until the day I die. Hands down. If Costco doesn't have Jif, I'm going to another store or not buying peanut butter." Dude,
wow.
Creamy is best, but we'll eat crunchy if that is there. But that never really happens. Passion.
I love it.
And I'm sorry, Cheryl, because I did not read it well for you.
No, you did a terrible job.
I'm not a good reader. I've self-diagnosed with slow reading comprehension.
Okay.
So so when I read, it's slow.
Well, this idea of testing out the peanut butter came from my brother, who did it at George Fox University,
which
all of the.
On the last episode, you just called it Fox University.
Oh, George Fox University.
I was trying to figure out what university he's talking about.
Well, I've self-diagnosed that I'm a poor reader. So, but and I can give the results.
Yes, okay.
Because we did our own study.
Yes,
in depth. Okay,
truly. I mean, legit. Tanya put it on. Great job, Tanya.
Thank you.
Huh?
I said peer reviewed.
It was peer reviewed. Yeah, and so George Fox University was that. Jif Creamy was number one amongst his staff.
Okay.
And then when it came to Crunchy, Skippy Crunchy was the number one.
Yeah.
But who cares? They're from Oregon. We here did a study with Montanans.
Yeah.
And now we get to figure out, what we did is Tanya put all of this together, and she had all the Canvas staff do a blind taste test out of 3 different peanut butters.
Yes.
We had Skippy, Jiffy, and Adams No Stir.
No stir.
And so all 3 were there. And then everybody had a card, and then they went through and they had to take a test, not blindfolded, but they didn't know which was which.
Yeah, exactly. And we did crunchy peanut butter as well.
And then we did crunchy separately. Yes. Yeah. And so you give the results.
So smooth peanut butter. We had a total of 26 cards in this one.
Yep.
And first place, Skippy.
Oh, your friend.
Yes.
She's going to be upset, Cheryl. Yep. Sorry about that.
Yep. And I mean, not even close. 13.
Yeah.
So and
what did you pick?
Skippy.
I picked Skippy too.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that. Well,
let's get to our result. I want to. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to get to that. And then second place, Jif, and then third place, Adams. No stir. Yeah. So now I was surprised at how close Jif and Adams were, because Jif was 7 and Adams was 6.
So thinking I knew Skippy.
Right.
When I tasted Skippy, I'm like, that's Skippy. When I tasted Adams, I go, that's so Jif. Yeah. I was wrong.
You were.
And Adams was not bad.
No. It's because it's organic. It's got what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for?
Vegan?
No. It's got like you got you're predetermined because it's like organic, so you think it's gonna be like
healthier,
earthy, kind of flavor.
Yeah,
but,
okay. I don't know what the word you were thinking.
I can't think of it either.
Preconceived?
Yeah, I was looking for that one.
Wow.
There you go. See, Andy?
Good
All
job.
Right. Crunchy peanut butter. We had first place, Jif Crunchy with 9.
I'm starting to laugh about Pleasantville again. I can't believe it.
We got to keep moving. Second place was Skippy. So Jif barely won. It was close.
It was. And there people were passionate about theirs.
The staff was I did not know we opened up this can of the peanut butter with this, because our staff was like, oh no, that's definitely Skippy, and they were wrong.
And what was great is you and I differed.
I know. I just want to say, going on record, my taste buds and my mind matched together though, because I said on the podcast, I'm Skippy.
I said I was Skippy.
Yeah.
I was Jif. And then my number 2 was Adams No Stir.
Yeah.
And my last was Skippy. But then, are you ready for the crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Crunchy. I was Skippy.
I thought you were good. I thought you liked Skippy Crunchy. I thought you
did.
said that.
I was number 1.
No, but I thought you had said that before.
Oh, I did. I did.
Yeah.
But I was. How do you go from Jif #1 to Skippy #3, but then what's crunchy, you like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy. Anyways.
It was fun.
It was fun.
It was enlightening.
Mm-hmm. We're going to need to do another one of those later on.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out what
Something
we're going to do. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But let's get into this idea of the Oz effect.
Yeah.
And what I would like to do, if you're cool with this, I'm just going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
And
I'll just tell you the truth.
And you talk about it. I grew up a pastor's kid, so I'm going to give some of my own thoughts too sometimes. But let's get into this.
I think this will be interesting. I think people are going to are listen to the podcast, and I think it's going to be just enlightening a little bit. And I think I think there's some things that they can take away to apply their own life to that I hope is helpful and brings the most out of it.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you right now. I drank a Red Bull.
Oh, come on.
Right before I came here, and it was a sugared one. I haven't been doing the sugar ones lately. Mm-hmm. I'm all jacked up right now, man. So I got to try to make sure I don't use high voice the whole time. So here we go.
Okay.
What does a typical day look like for you?
Oh, well, Tanya would probably be able to answer that the best because she's always managing my calendar. And I think the truth is there is no such thing as a typical day. Every day. I literally, when we come to adventure, I look at my calendar every day to wonder what the adventure is going to look like. I'm like, what am I doing today? I'm like, just this week, I'm speaking at our Canvas college orientation tonight, and then I'm speaking at our church tomorrow, and then the next day I'm down in Polson speaking at an event. Next week I'm over in Seattle speaking at an event. A couple weeks later I'm speaking at a thing in Boise. So there's a lot of different travel and going on, and then at the same time you can't plan crisis. So you're sort of on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because crisis doesn't happen within the workday. It happens
so true.
all the other time. And so your phone can go off at any time where someone just needs someone.
Yeah.
And so I was on the phone last night at 9:00, just talking with someone, helping them navigate through some stuff. And that's sort of the typical day is what the adventure is going to go, and you just sort of live and some you try to be as intentional as you can, but you end up reacting to some things.
Well, and it's crazy because every person, every pastor is so different. And I think like what I appreciated about your personality is just your ability to kind of just go with the flow. So not a lot of people, some people have a hard time with that. Here's a curveball thrown at you, and so it's neat to see, and not just you, but even our staff. I've seen that a lot across our pastoral staff is like, we take turns going pastor on call. Who's taking those calls? And we get so many different types of calls, and just the ability to just go say, I'm going to go wherever someone's at. I'm going to meet them where they're at, and it's just cool.
Be the best of our ability because you're connecting with people at the crisis of their life and at the hardest time of their life often. And so when they're calling for a pastor on care or that, and you don't get to schedule that, so you just go. And the adventure is you get to step into a moment of someone's life where they need someone to hold their hand, or your presence, and that's the adventure of life. The adventure is not always mountaintops. Sometimes that adventure is walking through the valley of the shadow of death. And so,
isn't that crazy how like a day, like especially with the amount of people that we see here and stuff, in one day you can be on the highs of someone's life, whether that's a wedding or a child being born, or on the lows of someone else's life in the same exact day.
In one day, I did a wedding for a couple in the morning, and then that afternoon had to do a suicide funeral.
Oh my goodness!
You go from the mountaintop to the valley. And that's just not one time. It's wild.
For you, how does that weigh on you emotionally? I mean, because you're an emotional guy. You have big emotions. You have small emotions. Like what does that do for you? How do you navigate that?
Well, a couple of things I would say on that. Number one, I have a personality that is sort of wired not to carry certain things, but I don't want to, honestly, even as I say that, I don't want to give too much credit to a personality. But there is that truth. We do foster care, and we'll have kids in our home, and when it's time for them to move out, I can release that pretty easily. But I think here's the reason why, and I think all of us can get here. One thing is I have a really short memory.
Oh yeah.
Like I forget things really quick.
You do.
You could be an axe murderer and tell me you're an axe murderer, and a month later I'm going to go, you should work in kids ministries.
Oh, yeah.
I just forget what people tell me.
He would too.
And it's true.
He's got a great smile.
If you go back to I don't interview people because I see everybody as a 10.
Right.
So I really do that. But I think here's the big deal. And this is, in fact, this can be the most important takeaway of the podcast for someone right now.
Okay.
You can't carry people's burdens. And you're not designed to carry people's burdens.
Yeah.
Jesus doesn't say cast your burdens on others. He says cast your cares on me.
Yeah, that's good.
Because he's the one that carries them. So when people are pouring out their burdens to me, I leave them at Jesus' feet.
Yeah.
I can't carry them. You know where anxiety comes from? And I might have said this in the last podcast, or I said it on a weekend, but it stuck with me. Yeah. Sometimes when you're talking, something comes out of your mouth. I go, "Oh, I like that." Ooh. This is one of the things.
Holy Spirit.
I was talking about the shepherd and sheep on out of Psalms 23. But here's the reality: anxiety for most people comes when they're carrying a burden they were never intended to carry.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So when a sheep carries the burden of protecting the flock, that sheep's going to experience anxiety. They were never meant to carry that. Yeah. It's the shepherd's job.
Yeah.
And when I pick up things I was never intended to carry, I'm going to experience anxiety.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I have to do is realize I can't carry that. I can give wisdom into it.
Yeah.
I can be sympathetic or empathetic in the moment.
Yeah.
I can give comfort and direction.
Yeah.
But I can't carry it.
Yeah.
That's God's job. Yeah. And he's big enough, has big enough shoulders to do it.
That's good.
And at the end of the day, do you want me to carry it?
Yeah.
Or do you want God to carry it?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, and I want God to carry
exactly.
it. Exactly. Yeah.
So that's a typical day for you?
That's a typical day, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Crazy.
And I think the way you give things to God is you just tell him. You just pray and talk to him about those things. Hey, here's a heavy concern I need you to carry.
Yeah.
I taught my kids this, and it's been so helpful in their life. Speaking out loud is important. There's something powerful when the heart and the head connect and it comes out the mouth. In fact, I taught my kids to pray out loud.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know how to pray out loud. Yeah. It would benefit their life to learn to pray out loud because it releases emotion and it organizes your thoughts and then it comes out the mouth.
Yeah.
And so I will often do that when I'm driving home.
Yeah.
Lord, this is my concern. I got to give it to you.
Yeah.
But I do it out loud. It's a release for the heart and it's a calm for the mind.
Yeah. It's crazy that you mentioned that, how different a prayer is when it's in your head compared to out of your mouth.
Yeah.
It goes completely different. The way you think so much harder and more passionately, whatever you want to say, when you're praying out loud.
Well, throughout Scripture, there is the statement, cry out with your mouth, voice your concern. There is something so powerful about releasing. There's power in the word. What is this? Another verse in the Bible says that your tongue has power of life and death.
Yeah.
And so I want to speak that out.
That's good. All right, next question for you. What is your favorite thing? Oh, I got to do deep voice. What is your favorite thing about your job?
Oh.
I'm going to stop doing that. That was weird.
Yeah, well, it's okay. We started this podcast weird.
You started it weird.
Well, I was close. Easy. It's an easy answer. I love people's transformational stories. We shared a podcast. We shared a video a couple Sundays ago on our baptism weekend. We baptized 105 people and across Canvas. And this individual shared his story of coming to know Jesus. Yeah, game changer.
Yeah.
But what I loved about his story, he talked about how he would even drink before he'd come to church to get rid of the shakes because he was just nervous to come to church.
Yeah.
And what I loved about that moment was a quarter of our church does the same thing.
Yeah.
It's so relatable to so many people who are on a life's journey, who are looking for hope.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but we're seeing these people's lives change. Yeah. That's why I love to see life change.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love the other thing that I just love about my job is I love seeing people on our team achieve their dreams.
Oh, yeah.
And being able to work with them and navigate the high moments and the the difficult moments of moving that direction. So I get excited. I think I spend a lot of time thinking about that.
Yeah.
I love that. And then I love preaching.
Yeah.
I got to admit that. I love getting up and standing in front of people that I deeply care about and speaking truth to watch it change their life. So, I mean, I got the best job, I think, in the world.
All right. This is a good question, especially for the idea of Oz. Do you feel like you're always being watched?
Well, yes, but I am. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. You know, I'll give you an interesting concept. In the 1980s, and I grew up in the 70s, 80s, in the church world. So those of you who have a church history, you'll remember this. They were always putting the pastor up on a pedestal.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that's where the celebrity pastor started. It's not the same culture that we have today of celebrity, but people would always put up a pastor on the pedestal. And the reason why is if they put the pastor up on the pedestal, it removes the burden from them to try to live the life that they're talking about because they're up that high. Then in the later 2000s, 2010s, celebrity pastor became a big deal. Yeah. And you saw a shift.
Yeah.
Not only, it was a both and, not only were people putting pastors on pedestals, but pastors were building their own pedestals through social media.
Yeah.
And so that they would put themselves up there, but then they had to live up to the a pedestal that they had built.
Yeah.
So I'm growing up watching all of this taking place, knowing that someday I want to be a pedestal. Or not a pedestal.
I want pastors to stand on me.
And so one of the things that I have done moving in and having a great example within my father, who was a minister, is I want to be a pedestal tear downer. I want to remove the pedestal that people put me on. Now here's the tension I feel on this. People are always putting me up on a pedestal. I'm always having to tear it down. That's why I use a lot of self-deprecating humor when I'm speaking. Because the more relational I can be with people, the more they can relate to change their life. And so, but I'm always being watched. I think, but I have chosen the mindset, I don't live life on. I live life off.
Okay.
So I hope, and I work really hard at this, that who you see on the stage is who you see at Costco. Who you see on stage is who you get on a podcast. Who's also who you get at home. The number one question my kids get asked is this question right here, and that is your dad the same person at home as he is on stage? And sometimes they'll go, he's a little quieter. Because I'm not meant to talk the whole time.
Right.
But yeah, it's pretty much the same. And
not always, though. I mean, you do talk a lot at home.
I do talk a lot. But then the goal is to live life off. And here's the other thing. People's opinions are fickle. I'm amazed at how people's opinions change. So here's the deal. Am I being watched all the time? I am being judged all the time.
Yeah.
And I say this I want to say this with humility, not pride.
Yeah.
People's opinions of me don't matter very much.
Yeah.
I don't stand before them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And give an account.
Yeah.
If I stand before God to give an account.
Yeah.
If people's opinions were to determine my direction, we'd never have the church that we have today.
Sure.
Because they would have never voted to go where we went at the time.
Yeah.
And so I think the part of the job of the pastor is you have to know whose voice or who you're accountable to.
Yeah.
And then submit to that voice.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is live life off and humbly.
Yeah.
That's my thought on that one.
That's good. When I think, and you kind of touched on it, but you do especially, and I know you've done that intentionally, is you do have people in your life that you do trust to be able to, you respect their opinion. And a lot of times you lean into it even when it goes against your own opinion.
Oh, for sure. If you're not, please don't take what I just said and say, well, I only have to give an account to God. Right. God puts people in your life that are in your authority, and you need to submit to your authority. I'm a big believer in that. So I have 7 board members that, boy, I submit to their authority and all of that. But their opinions matter. But at the end of the day, They determine my job, but the Lord's going to determine my faithfulness.
Yeah.
That's the key.
What's it like being in a pastor's family?
I grew up in it. You grew up in it.
Yeah.
So you know it.
Mm-hmm.
I think my kids are watched maybe even more than I am watched.
Isn't that so true?
And they and I don't want to
not as much today. I feel like than when we were growing up.
Yeah, it's especially like one of the things that's been helpful for that I've really worked with my kids is to get outside of my shadow, because they'll never really discover who they are living in my shadow.
Yeah.
So it was important that my oldest daughter went away for a year and a half and she came back a different person.
Yeah.
It was it was a little hard because I was alumni of the year of the college she went to. And so she was like, I can't get away from you. And, but there, she's living her own life there. And I think there's something important about getting out of. So I just took my daughter to Southeastern in Florida, and my son's looking at moving to a different state, and it's important that they get away, discover who they are, because they're always are you Kevin's kid? Are you Kevin's kid?
Yeah.
Especially in a church our size, in a community our size.
Yeah.
Because they're always attached back to that.
Yeah.
So I think it can be hard, but if you're intentional with your children and leading them, and letting them know, because here's the expectation from good people. The expectation is the children are perfect.
Yeah.
They just aren't.
It's not.
I didn't raise one perfect child.
Yeah.
Because I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
And so I just think that, but they feel that also that expectation, even though you don't put it on them.
Yeah. I remember even as a kid, because I was born in South Carolina and then we moved to Montana when I was 7 years old. But I remember specifically in South Carolina when I was real young, I got in trouble in children's church. And like the teacher, when church was over, she like pulled me out and like by the arm and took me to my parents. Do you know what your kid did? And blah, 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 blah. And I remember like, I don't remember all the details of it. So I'm sure my mom's listening to this. Like, it's probably this detail and that detail. So I'm sure I'll get corrected on it. But I do remember the gist of it, of like my parents being like, and would you do this with any other kid? But no, they brought the pastor's kid out, and so, but like, I remember even as I was probably 6 years old and thinking like, oh, thanks mom and dad. Like, you didn't do this to any of the other kids. Why are you doing this to me? Yeah. And having my parents have my back was such a big deal for me.
Yeah. I think it's huge. I think, just let kids be kids. Like on a Sunday right now, we have a office where kids hang out in, and it's chaos in that office. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, the staff kids.
Yeah. And they tear up the office. They're running around. They're on scooters in the hallway. I don't give a rip.
Yeah.
I walk through. I always go in and say hi. I think it's just back of. My daughter said once, she goes, Dad, I had 2 guys tell me that they would have dated me, but because I'm a pastor's kid, they didn't want to date me because they're scared of your dad. So it's just the reality. That's it. It's just, it is what it is. Every job requires sacrifice.
What was your response to her?
Yes. That's why she's gone. Yes.
All right. What are some of your hardest challenges?
I'll give you a personal one, and then I'll give you an organizational one.
Okay.
Personal one of growing, and I think this relates to anybody in leadership.
Yeah.
Is growing in leadership. I mean, we're a church that went from 450 to over 5,000. And so the way you lead a church of 450 people is completely different than the way you lead a church in 5,000. And then multiple campuses.
Yeah.
I'm not that same person that I was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I've had to grow and change how I lead. Still be the same person, personality wise, but different leadership leads. And it's been wonderful at times, and it's been brutal at times. Because my number one job right now is give everything I do away.
Yeah.
And only do that which I can do. So there will be times where there's a meeting taking place and I'm not in that meeting. Yeah. Because I don't need to be in that meeting. Yeah. But there's a death in me going, I want to be in that meeting. Yeah. I went to a team just recently, and I said to the team, hey, should I be part of that team? And these are all fellow campus pastors, and they're like, no. We don't need you. No.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that
Dun,
sucks.
dun, dun.
But the truth is, I don't need to be there. So I can only do, I only need to do what I can do.
Yeah.
And so that, and I think the other thing is, here's been a hard challenge.
Yeah.
That I'm still learning.
Mm.
And that is, I don't get to joke with people on staff like I used to.
Mm.
Because my words come with a heavier weight. And so, and I've run into this numerous times. I'll give a joke that 5 years ago would have been nothing.
Yeah.
But now, because of my position and I don't have the relationship with the staff like I used to rub shoulders with all the time, now they search that joke for truth and they beat themselves up in it. And it just this past week, someone said something to me, and they said, yeah, when you said that, I don't even remember it.
Oh.
But when you said that as a joke, it really ruined my whole week.
Oh, wow.
Well, I was like, and so I've had to learn that as our organization has gotten bigger, my words have gotten heavier.
Yeah.
And so I have to speak a different way, which is challenging.
Yeah.
So that's a hard thing.
Yeah.
And then I think the other one, this is a long question, but organizationally, I had a friend say to me when I was getting ready to pastor, I asked him this question: what is the hardest challenge? And he said, the people you lead. It won't be the people you serve in your church. It will be the people you lead.
Yeah.
Especially in a larger church.
Yeah.
And staff issues, we always have staff issues. And I want a healthy staff. That's one of the things I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
But people are people. Yeah. And so I'm not perfect and they're not perfect. And so people are going to bring in their dysfunction from their homes to the workplace, and they're going to bring their own dysfunction, and you're going to have to walk with people. So you're always navigating life stuff with people. And that's just the way it is, and I honestly wouldn't change it for the world.
And just when you think you got it all right, something else comes up.
Well, just when you think you get it all right, I do a reorg. And then everybody's roles change, and then everyone is insecure again about where they are, and we have to navigate through all that.
Do you get very much pushback? Staff, church people?
I don't get very much pushback from staff. We're pretty united on mission every once in a while, but we navigate that. But I think when in the first few years here, when Canvas was becoming the church that we really needed to become, I got pushback every week.
Yeah.
In fact, I started going to, there's a family camp in close to us that happened. I stopped going to that for 3 years. There'd be a line of people ready to chew me out that didn't even attend our church.
Yeah.
Most of our pushback honestly comes from people who don't attend our church.
That's crazy.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Is that still true today?
No, it's not as true today. Most of our pushback today comes from people who start attending here and they want the programs of their old church.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm like, just go back to your old church.
Right. This is how we used to do it.
Right.
Well, why are you here?
Yeah. And then I think the pushback I'll get, I got pushback the other day because I was talking about the incarnation of Jesus. And I said, Jesus was fully human, which means he turned to Peter and said, pull my finger. That ticked off some people. Which I thought was pretty funny, honestly. But I think sometimes I get pushback because I don't preach hot topics. But let me refine that. I preach hot topics every week.
Yeah.
I don't preach their hot topics.
Yeah.
And so they want me to either take a political stance. And so I get a lot of pushback on that.
Yeah.
Or then if I just recently preached a theological issue, but some people determined it was a political issue. So there was a lot of people that got ticked off on that one.
Yeah.
And then I think I get pushback like, okay, you're ready to have some fun?
Always.
You've done this. But to the listener, go read the Google reviews of Canvas Church.
Oh, yes. There's some good ones.
Oh, and I think what you'll see there is people don't like our style. So we get a lot of pushback on our style.
Yeah. Style.
It's style.
What is that Southern accent all of a
sudden? Like some people will say, this preacher thinks he's funny, and he is so not. I mean, there's some great reviews on there. So you get pushback on all that kind of stuff.
So that's some criticism. You would say that's some criticism that you get as well?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
How do you carry the weight of people's burdens that they share with you? We kind of talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think, again, you trust that this is huge. I'm not the savior of their soul. the pastor is not the savior. The pastor, like people will say, I need.
Is that pedestal that you're talking about?
People will say, I need a pastor to pray for me.
Yeah.
You don't need it. The truth is, you need a righteous person to pray for you.
Yeah.
That's what the Bible says. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective.
Yeah.
And so I think you just understand Jesus is the solution. Jesus is the hope. My job is to point people to Jesus and not carry their burdens.
I love that encouragement too. I think for everyone who's listening is you don't need a pastor to pray for you. You need someone that loves Jesus to pray for you.
I don't baptize people here at Canvas currently, and there's an intentionality behind that, and I love to do it.
Yeah, you do.
And the other Sunday, a week ago or so, I was going to baptize at the noon gathering, and I just felt like, they don't need me to baptize. We can have this other individual baptize, because if I walk out to baptize, I was even going to say, listen, I'm baptizing this gathering. Yeah. This is if you haven't been baptized, go. And I thought, no, you're going to make it about you. Again, tearing down the pedestal.
That's good.
And I'm like, no, we're just going to let him baptize. And it's about their walk in obedience. That's great. Not about who baptizes.
Yeah.
I think it's always tearing down the pedestal to be real.
That's cool. Okay, a few more questions for you. You good to keep going?
Yeah, I like this.
All right, it's fun. How do you decide what to teach? How do you decide what you're speaking on?
Yeah. There's a lot of things. We have a great message development team.
Yeah.
We have a team that writes messages together.
Yeah.
Collaboratively. It's a very unique way. I don't know any other church that writes this way.
Yeah.
But it was a method that we developed over trial and error and are always developing it.
Yeah.
But Tanya really leads that whole system and has done a phenomenal job at setting up and keeping what's in front of us. But I think I like to create a year plan of where we're going to go.
Yeah.
And then there's always the flexibility. One of the words I like here is flexure.
Yeah.
We have flexibility within our structure.
Yeah.
And so we'll create the structure, and then we'll shift it as needed for the moment. And so there are moments where we'll have a whole structure plan, and I'm like, this is a felt need. I need to preach on this. And we'll take that week and preach on that. So, but most of the time we lay out the plan and we go for it.
Yeah.
And that's what we decided to teach. There are some exciting things coming up. I'm excited to preach on. One of them I've already announced and one I haven't announced. So you'll hear a podcast. It'll be first. Dun, dun. One of them is in next year, I'm going to do a series on what is a believer. How does a follower of Jesus survive an election year?
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do we do that?
Right. Yeah,
and I've already got pushback on that. I've already had two people meet with me.
Just by announcing that you're going to talk about it?
Yes.
Like they want to give you an opinion on what you should talk about?
One of them wanted me to give me an opinion on some things, and the other one was like, I don't think you should do that. And,
for your sake, don't do it, Kevin.
Here's the other one, and this is brand new. This is something that's in my mind. So here it is, breaking news. I want to do a series, a 6 to 8 week series, probably at the end of next year, that's called Deconstructing My Faith.
Ooh.
And I want to lead people on how to deconstruct without throwing everything out.
That's good.
Because I think too many people's faith have built on rooms to their spiritual home that they need to tear down.
Yeah.
And then rebuild them correctly. But I think people don't know how to do that, so they end up deconstructing everything, and they tear up the foundation of which they never should have. So I want to lead people on that journey, and we're just starting to develop that concept of how we're going to do it. I think it's going to be huge.
Yeah, I think
huge.
So too.
I think it's going to be a powerful series coming up.
So how you write basically is you have a plan.
Yep.
You have a great team around you.
Yep.
You guys get together, you talk through it.
Yep.
You stick to the plan, but you have the flexibility to make adjustments when you need to.
And then it's always reviewed.
Yeah.
Yeah, always reviewed.
I remember in 2020, all the flexure that we had to remember there was one time
2020 COVID year when we shut down for a little bit, but we never really shut down.
No. But we were going a direction with a series, and I don't remember the first series was called. Do you remember what the one series was called?
We were going to call it Just Breathe.
Yeah.
I don't remember this. Again, this is my short memory.
We even made a bumper video. We had a graphic for it. We had all of it. And you came into one of our meetings that you weren't a part of, that you wanted to be a part of, but you couldn't be a part of it because
I always want to be part of the creative team.
No, this wasn't even creative. This was a gathering team meeting.
Okay.
And and you're like, hey guys, I just feel like we need to pivot and we need to make this adjustment. We need to go this direction with it. And we're talking like a day or two before. And so we couldn't think of a title quick enough. So we called the series Pivot.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember that was right in the middle of that 2020 year of chaos.
I mean, shut down. COVID. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, we never did go back and do that Just Breathe series.
Yeah. Was it Just Breathe? I feel like it was something else. Yeah, anyway, it was cool. But I think that's a great example of the strength of your team and the ability to have that flexibility and that structure there.
We have a phenomenal team here that when you're committed to the mission more than the process.
Oh, that's good.
You will be able to have a flexure culture.
Yeah.
When people before policy is a very important concept.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you don't have policy.
Yeah, that's good.
And policy is for the masses. And if you have a policy that never has an exception, then I think you run into trouble.
Yeah.
Because people before policy, but sometimes when you're reading it in the moment, you're going to start with trying to fix it for that person.
Yeah.
And you're going to leverage the policy.
Yeah.
But sometimes you make the exception for the person.
Yeah.
And I want to be that way.
Yeah.
So
that's good. Okay. So last question for you. Thanks for it's been fun. So number 10, what will you do after you retire?
Well, I don't ever plan to retire, but
I knew it.
It's impossible. I don't think, could you?
No, I will always be part of the church. You know, my dream is, here's my dream. I don't know if I've shared this publicly. And here's what it is. We are launching a whole bunch of campuses.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to launch Missoula.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to launch, in Bozeman within the next 2 to 3 years, I pray.
Yeah.
If it comes. There's other campuses I'd love to launch. But each one of those, we have Billings and, we have Cut Bank and Sioux Falls and Kalispell. Each one of those, especially the Missoula and the Billings and the Bozeman and the Kalispell, are going to be hub sites.
Yeah.
And what I mean by a hub site is the expectation for those leaders that lead those churches is to plant churches out of their church.
Yeah.
So Billings is getting ready to launch another campus out of Billings, probably beginning of next year. They're already working on it right now and laying the groundwork and having conversations with people. Very excited about that.
Yeah.
We'll get Missoula launched. My goal before I retire is that those will become really independent churches outside of our organization. That what we're building, we're going to break.
Yeah.
And then I will stay and lead Kalispell because I want to be at Kalispell all my life.
Yeah.
I want to stay at Kalispell and lead that transition so that when I retire, they will just be hiring a Kalispell campus pastor, not someone to lead the whole organization because we've launched it in separate. And here's the reason why. Because I never want to build it on me.
Yeah.
And the question that we want to answer is what will reach more people for Jesus quicker?
Yeah.
And then whatever the answer is to that, that's what we want to do.
Yeah, that's good.
So then I'd love to do that before I retire. Yeah. When I retire, I hope, here's what I want. We hired a guy.
Oh, yeah.
We hired a guy named Alan Warnicki.
He commented on YouTube on the peanut butter.
Oh, he's a stud.
He's just awesome.
He's awesome. And we called him the General.
Yes.
And every time he would walk out on stage, people would love him.
Oh, yeah.
And he would just meet with people and walk with people.
Yeah.
When I hired him, I looked at the board and I said, I want you to see how we treat him because this is the job I want.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I told the board this before I hired him. And I go, this, and so we gave him unlimited vacation. This is the truth.
And he still put in his PTO request.
Because he's a workaholic.
Yeah.
And I get that. He was allowed to go any conference that he wanted to go to. We were going to take care of it. We were going to, he got to work his hours that he wanted.
Yeah.
And he made a difference.
Yeah. He
was the biggest champion of our pastors.
Yeah.
I want to be Alan Warnicki.
That's cool.
And so I'm hoping they'll give me an office. Doesn't have to have a window.
Yeah. Probably won't.
All I need is 2 chairs in my chair. Probably won't. And then I'll just be the biggest fan of where we're going, and I'll love people.
Well, and you're already really working towards that with that gray beard.
Dude, this is coming so fast.
Nothing can beat Alan's hair, though.
Oh yeah,
Man, that
dude.
hair.
Alan, he's just.
We should share. We should ask Alan if we could share a picture of him.
Yeah.
We probably have a good one of you and him together. That'd be fun.
We do.
Yeah.
We'll get one.
That'd be fun. We should post that.
So there it is. I mean, that's the typical. I like your questions, Justin. That's the just a typical life right there. What we do sort of behind the scenes.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
I was going to be a pastor since I was 8 years old,
yep.
and I was going to be a lead pastor since I was 8 years old,
I remember that.
and I didn't become a lead pastor until I was 36, because the Lord had a different journey He
Yeah.
wanted to take me on, and so I had to learn and walk faithful and be patient, and I don't regret it at all.
That's good.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, that's it for this episode. Remember, new episodes come out on the first Thursday of every month. So hit that notification button and don't miss out. I'm Justin. This is Kevin. This is our
everyone.
team. Thank you so much for listening to the Life and Gear podcast, where truth leads to joy and adventure.